Today, we're meeting with Professor Amy Agigian, the Associate Professor of Sociology and Criminal Justice at Suffolk, and the founder and director of the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights at Suffolk University as well. I'm Hartley Press. I'm the Career Equity and Access Graduate Fellow at Suffolk University's Career Center. And we are interviewing Professor Agigian today so that we have sort of a series of women in power at Suffolk University, and we can kind of create a profile of everyone. So my first question is, can you tell me a bit about yourself and your background?
Well, thank you for interviewing me for this series, first of all. Let's see, I come from California. I am a Californian at heart. I was raised in the Bay Area, but I've been out here. I live in Somerville, and I've been here since 1989. And I have been teaching at Suffolk since 1999, which is more than 20 years now. So I've been at Suffolk for a long time. My background, my academic background is my undergraduate degree is from University of California in Santa Cruz, and that was a major in women's studies. And my PhD is in sociology from Brandeis University.
How has your gender identity affected your career in positive and or negative ways?
Well, my gender identity is female. So I would say it has affected my career in positive and negative ways. Mostly positive. And, you know, as I mentioned, my undergraduate degree was in women's studies, and I probably wouldn't have gone into that if I hadn't been a woman myself. So, you know, and similarly, my PhD work, a lot of it was about feminist theory and women's studies through sociology. And then now I am, you know, running the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights. And so it's really pretty much what I do is feminist work. So it's related. You know, I wouldn't say that somebody who's a man couldn't have the career that I've had, but it would be a lot less likely.
Do you have any advice for women entering a male-dominated industry?
I do. I mean, it would depend on the industry, because I think different industries are male-dominated in different ways. I mean, I think one thing I would say to everybody is whether you're a woman, whether you're, you know, however your gender is different from the norm that's expected, whether you're non-binary, trans, you know, whatever your gender is, I would say find your allies, find your people, connect, and you know, connect with everybody who wants to support you, whatever their identity is, whether it's gender identity or other kinds of identity. And, you know, I think that goes a really long way. You know, and also just be aware, like it's kind of a fine line. You don't want to be paranoid. But on the other hand, if you're aware that you're going into a male-dominated industry, you know, there are a lot of tricks and tips that women have come up with and have written about, and, you know, you can find them, and a lot of them are good, but I guess another piece of advice is don't blame yourself. You know, do your best, find your allies, speak up for yourself, be assertive, although that can backfire too. You know, and then don't blame yourself if you're the recipient of sexism or any other ism on the job. It's not your fault. And, you know your rights, so that if you have to advocate for yourself, you're in a better position to do it. But also know when to leave. Some places are so toxic, it's just not worth it. And that's a personal decision. I've always had I've had overall really positive experiences working for women. Women bosses, women professors, women, it's worked out really well. And I hear some people saying like, oh, it's horrible to have a woman boss. That just has not been my experience. So, I wouldn't stereotype anybody based on that. So
Yeah.
I guess that's my advice off the top of my head.
How do we increase gender diversity in the workplace?
Well, it's tricky because we have the male-dominated jobs and the female-dominated jobs. The male-dominated jobs pay a lot better than the female-dominated jobs, like being a teacher, being a nursery teacher, being, those aren't the only female-dominated jobs, being a waitress or female waiter, being a secretary or administrative assistant, or, so, I mean, one way of going at it is to try and, kind of the typical way that it's talked about is trying to increase pipeline, to work on pipeline issues to get more women into male-dominated positions. Another approach would be to pay the female-dominated positions better, to pay them more fairly, to value them in society and have that value reflected in pay. And then, a funny thing would happen if we did that, which is more males would come into those positions too. So, it's not, so I think we should do both. I mean, everybody should be able to do whatever position they have. And, while we're at it, I would say also it's really important that people not be paid poverty wages to work any job, right? Whether you have a college education or not, you should be able to make a decent living and support your family. And that is no longer the case in the United States, even to the extent that it was, in decades past. So, and obviously that was never like a rosy picture. It was stratified by race and lots of other things, but, location, region, but everybody should be able to make a living wage, in a full-time job. And when that's not possible, that skews everything else. It just makes every job that does pay well ultra competitive. It just leads to all kinds of bad implications for anybody in the job market and anywhere in the workforce. So that's an important factor too.
What have you learned from your gender identity that has encouraged and empowered you to continue in your line of work?
What have I learned from my meaning, what have I learned as a woman that has empowered me and encouraged me to continue? That's so hard to separate out from just being a person.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how it would have been different if I wasn't a woman, if I was, something different. So, I mean, I think I have my suspicions that being a woman makes me more sociable and more connected and have deeper relationships with more people and more kinds of people. But I also think that's my personality and my values. I'm a people person. So I'm not sure what to say, how to answer that.
No.
I think maybe I have an answer. I think being a feminist has more to do with it in a lot of ways. Being somebody who, believes in people being treated well, regardless of gender, and people being able to live their lives. So I think being a feminist has really helped me, which I have been my whole life. I'm happy to say ever since I knew what it was when I was a little kid. And my mom would play the record Free to Be You and Me. And it was all about, you can do whatever you want, and whatever, you can play with this or with that. I mean, like toys, like gender, or, you shouldn't be limited by gender. So I feel like being a feminist has really empowered me in my life to, just to pursue what I want to pursue career-wise, and not only career-wise, but, I feel like that has really helped me a lot.
What importance do you place on Women's History Month?
I like Women's History Month and I like Black History Month. I like all the months. I do think it's really valuable because most of us, I think, don't spend all year thinking about any particular, gender or, racial or ethnic group or whatever. And I like the days, like this is the International Day of Hand Washing, which might sound like nothing, but then think about diseases. So, I think all these things are good if they help us to just remember things that are outside of our normal, get up, go to work, deal with your family, keep body and soul together. They expand our scope a little bit. And so I think that's usually really good.
Can you name one highlight of your career that you deem successful and name how it shaped your career trajectory?
Well, okay, I'm going to cop out and just say getting my PhD. That was not a foregone conclusion. I actually was a high school dropout, and it was not a foregone conclusion that I was going to make it through college, much less getting a PhD. So, and I struggled. It was not easy. It was not easy intellectually. It was not easy financially. It was not easy emotionally. It just, it was a lot. And even though I was in a great program, I loved my program. So I'm very, very proud of that and consider that a success. And that shaped everything afterwards. I wouldn't have become a professor, a faculty member, any of the things that I've done since then.
From the research I did, it's clear that you're an incredibly passionate woman dedicated to educating and empowering other women, girls, gender expansive people. So what prompted you to embark on that path?
I like being called incredibly passionate. First of all, thank you. Not everybody can see my hidden depths of passion. So, like I alluded to, my mom was a feminist, and that had a very big influence on me. And I really think that's kind of where it started. Although my sister, it's just me and my sister, she's a total feminist, but like it's not her career. She's not a career feminist. So I'm not sure. I think it was just, I think taking women's studies as an undergrad had a big impact too. I had thought that I was going to be a philosophy major when I went to college. I don't know. I mean, it was based on, certain people I had read. And then I took one philosophy class. I think I even dropped it. I was like, this is horrible, which I know it's not. Philosophy is totally valid and wonderful, field, but it wasn't for me. And I also took one women's studies class, and I totally fell in love with it. And it all made sense. And I loved my professor, this at UC Santa Cruz. I loved my first intro to feminism professor. I loved my fellow students. I loved what I was reading. I just totally fell in love with the whole thing. And, deciding to be a women's studies major, it just was a great choice for me, and influenced just the way that I see things and my decisions about what I was going to do next. So I want to give a lot of credit, little shout out to UC Santa Cruz Women's Studies, now Feminist Studies program.
So congratulations on the $2 million grant for Our Bodies, Ourselves Today. What prompted you to partner with Our Bodies Ourselves, and how do you see this platform changing women's health as human rights?
Okay. Well, first of all, just a slight clarification. It was not a grant, it was a gift.
Oh my
Gift
gosh.
from an individual donor who is anonymous. So, it was not something that there's just a difference there. And so I want to acknowledge that gift and that generosity. I mean, grants are generous too, but it's just slightly different. Okay, ask me the question again.
So my question was, what prompted you to partner with Our Bodies Ourselves?
Oh,
and how do
okay.
you see the platform changing women's health as human
Okay,
rights?
so I have been a huge fan of Our Bodies Ourselves, like millions and millions of people around the globe. Again, since I was small, I just, I love what they have done. I mean, they really have been the Bible, what they say, the Bible of women's health, since the 1970s, and an incredibly important feminist organization and one of the longest lasting of the second wave feminist organizations. So I have had the privilege of being connected with them in a variety of ways since grad school. I actually was I worked for them for I think a year when I was in grad school, when they were in Somerville, in Davis Square. And my dissertation advisor, Irv Zola, was married to one of the founders of Our Bodies Ourselves, Judy Norsegian. So I got to meet her, and then after I started the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights, every time I got an opportunity to bring in Our Bodies Ourselves, whether one of their people as a speaker or as a teacher. Later, when I was running the Master of Arts in Women's Health program, Judy Norsegian was our advocacy in women's health faculty member, and just all kinds of ways. And then when it turned out that in 2018 they transitioned to being a mostly volunteer run organization. They weren't going to put out another edition of the book, which had been updated 9 times. So when that sad news came out, we started having a conversation about whether there was a way that we at the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights could do anything to try and keep some piece of it going. We were originally, well, anyway, I don't need to go into the details, but, like so many women and organizations, we were really sad that they weren't going to be putting out the book anymore. And then, just through a series of conversations and brainstorms, we came up with the idea of Our Bodies Ourselves Today, which is basically a digital platform to provide some of the resources and information and empowerment and everything that Our Bodies Ourselves, the book, has provided, until now. And then there was a process of, legally, it's just been a long process, and the COVID pandemic has really not helped. But we are, we're set to launch in May of this year, so less than 2 months away. And, it's an extremely ambitious initiative, and we really want it to be, and are working hard so that it will be, the definitive resource for health and sexuality for women and girls and gender expansive people. And that's an umbrella term referring to a lot of different genders and gender identities, whether it's two-spirit or non-binary, intersex, trans, femme, there's just so many words and identities that are proliferating that we had to come up with something that would kind of capture the broadest possible expanse of genders and gender identities. So that's why we say gender expansive. So we really want to be the place that people turn to, whether it's like, oh, my doctor told me I have, precancerous changes in my cervix, or, oh, I'm whatever it is, or like, I think I might be having PTSD. How do I find out? Or is this relationship I'm in, is this abusive or is this normal? Or, just all these kinds of things that affect our physical and mental and spiritual health. We basically are we're still working on like our slogans and stuff. And one of them that I actually really like, that somebody I'm working with came up with last week, she's like, we should just call it, "We do the work for you." Because it's like it's a curated site. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're not writing most of our own materials. It's like, because there's so much great stuff out there, but like, we have experts who comb through everything and just get you the really reliable, best, most helpful information that's out there. And it's totally without profit motive. We're not trying to sell you anything. We are not taking money from pharmaceutical companies. We don't have an agenda except that we care, and want to make the world better for women, girls, gender diverse people, and everybody who cares about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it has the potential to really, be helpful and amazing for people, and, for young women, for older women, for people who are questioning their gender identity, all kinds of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I'm personally really excited for it to come out in a couple months. Yeah.
It's awesome.
So can you tell the Suffolk community about the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights here at Suffolk and how we can access it?
Sure. So I started the center in 2003. So it's been around for a while. And, it's based on the idea that health and human rights are not only essential, but they're very interrelated, right? So you can't have human rights without your health. You can't have your health without human rights, right? And for women, these things, affect each other in particular ways around the world and in the US. So, we are an academic research institute, and we are active in the community in a variety of ways. And, almost 20 years is a long time. So we've done a lot of things. Some of our highlights, well, it's all on the website. Go look on the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights website. Our biggest project, obviously, right now is Our Bodies, Ourselves Today. And that's taking place out of the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights. So that's our biggest thing. We've done a lot of different projects. I guess I'm repeating myself, but we love for people to be involved. It's a physical space. It's in the sociology department. You can always come by. We have a library that has over 1,000 titles that are related to women's health and human rights. And most of them you could borrow if you wanted to. Some of them were like, no, they're not leaving this room. Some of them are very unique and, priceless. We have we're working towards having every version of Our Bodies, Ourselves in every language. It's been translated into 34 languages, and we have a lot of them. We have events. a few events, usually like, well, who knows, after the pandemic. I mean, before that, we would typically have a couple of events every semester. We partner with organizations in the community. We do research. One of our projects, our other big projects right now, is the Women in Incarceration Project. We're trying to, we provide research that advocates can use. So we're working with people who are trying to prevent a new $50 million women's prison from getting built. We think that would be a very bad idea. All the things we could spend $50 million on at this moment in history, we don't think a huge new prison to incarcerate current and future generations of women is the best way to spend that money. So, students, there are ways to connect with us. It's not, we also take work study students. We love work study students. We've had interns. We always have interns. Sometimes they're from Suffolk. We co-sponsor events, sometimes with student groups. Sometimes we need research assistance. If you want to get involved, there's usually a way to do it. But sometimes we're not, sometimes it's easier than others, right? Like right now, we're all kind of maxed out because we're getting ready for launch for Our Bodies, Ourselves Today. So, sometimes we do have to not turn away people, but just say, you're going to have to wait a little bit before we can involve you in what we're doing. But we love, we're all about the students. So if you're interested, if anybody's interested, come on down and introduce yourself and, let's see what we can do.
Awesome. And finally, do you know what the office space is for the center? Like what the room number is?
Oh, I should know that.
No. That's
it's
okay.
on the, it's 7, it's in the Stahl building. It might be 7010.
Okay. We can figure it out. No, it's okay.
It's in the Soc department. You can't miss it. If you can find the Soc department, you can find the Center for Women's Health and Human Rights on the 7th floor.
The Stahl building.
Of the Stahl building. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time. I'm really glad that we got to interview with you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for reaching out.